Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at 7 Deadly Sins, a really nice anthology book put out by Knockabout Comics in 1989. And they basically got 7 writers and artists. Well, more than that, there's 7 stories, but they got a bunch of writers and artists to draw a story all about each of the 7 deadly sins, as we can see here. Really nice cover by Hunt Emerson. It's really good stuff. Very thin graphic novel, but it's oversized and has that like kind of nice sharp graphic design that Knockabout always had. These little end papers here. Ooh, the spine isn't gonna do too well. Gotta be careful. Contents page. And we start off with Pride by Roz Cavaney and Graham Higgins. Apparently Graham Higgins does all of this, the comic, and then Roz Cavaney does this little commentary. And because it's called Pride, which really nice logo, by the way, it's all like very self-complimentary. A classic strip by Graham Higgins featuring an exquisite commentary by Roz Cavaney. And in all of these, she's basically commenting on the story, lavishing praise on her own efforts and Graham Higgins. We've looked at Graham Higgins before. I can't remember where, though. And I love this guy's style. Just a really great cartoony style. This guy's got chops. So we see this guy named Hugh Priest. Get it? Hugh Priest. And he's down and out. He's got no job. He's a loser. And one day he's thinking about this other guy he knows. He's got his own business. And he says, well, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to get out of my rut. Buys a nice overcoat, gets a loan from the bank, and starts his own fish business. A little fish and chips place. He starts making money hand over fist. Starts doing good. And he finally has something to be proud of. He's proud of himself, proud of his business. So basically this is loosely based on, what is this story called? The Old Man and the Fish? Even though it's really not. But in this commentary, Roz Cavaney keeps talking about how notice how we took the outmoded idea of magic and the magic fish, and with rare brilliance turned it into something more substantial. Just bragging again. So now this guy decides to step up the ladder. He opens a really nice restaurant in the West End, selling fish still. We see all these caricatures. We see Roger Daltrey. He's thinking, hope I die before I get poor. I like how Jack Nicholson thinks he's Harpo Marx. Because remember that time? He did have a very Harpo Marx-like haircut. And that he starts a huge corporation, so he's rising up the ladder. He's becoming a millionaire. He becomes a TV star. He has his own cooking show that becomes a... whole families crowd around the TV every Friday night to watch him. And the whole time he just wants to keep moving up. He's never satisfied with his level of success. So then he decides to parlay his salesmanship and his showbiz acumen into politics. And looks like he becomes the Prime Minister of England or something. He's the head honcho. And then he has a heart attack. But it's a temporary setback because his next venture is God, or to become a godhead. So you can't get any higher than this, right? So he's somehow made it up to Godhead. And finally, he's thinking to himself, yeah, the universe is this amazing thing, but we've got to start thinking big. He's still ambitious. He still has pride. He still thinks he can do better. And so then I don't even really understand what's going on here. Maybe the universe is starting over with these two fish representing the yin and yang. And he says, a little archly symbolic as de ex machina go. And what, pray, is the moral? Never work with children or dumb animals. Which I don't really get. So I don't know about this ending. But it's fun. I love his art too. Graham Higgins is amazing. Next we have Envy by Tim Manley, writer, and Hunt Emerson, artist. This one is so fun. So there's this world-famous soap opera star named Hugh Jampton. He takes a morning bath in virgin's milk, makes $2 million for 5 minutes work on screen. And this guy at home is watching all about his life. Almost like those lifestyles of the rich and famous type shows, where they're just rubbing it in everyone's face like, don't you want it? Money, sex, power, more money, sex, wealth, yeah. You know, and of course this is envy. So we see this guy at home being stung by the envy bug, a big mosquito, which is, you know, obviously the cover. He kind of redrew the cover to have all the 7 deadly sins. But this says life and love. So he's like, yeah, I want a piece of that. I gotta have it. God, his cartooning is so good, Hunt Emerson. I love that. And the mosquito says, all you gotta do is become a cartoon character, and then you can do anything you want. So he says, all right, I'm in. He gets like 50 Porsches, these ridiculous yacht jet amalgamations. He basically owns everything. And the mosquito, he's not satisfied though. He says, I feel empty. I don't care about all this shit. He says, well, you know what you could do? You have all this wealth. Why don't you do something unselfish for the earth? You know, that could give you a good feeling. So he gets on his cell phone. It's from a 1989 cell phone, so it's really huge. And he says, my orders are to end all misery and suffering in the world now. And all these nuclear bombs go off. So it's like, shit, I didn't think it would be like that. So the mosquito shows him other ways he could feel power. And makes him a Roman leader with life and the power of life or death resting on his thumb. But he doesn't like that either. He's like, this is stupid. This doesn't make me happy. So then you see some like Swami type. And the Swami's talking about all this hidden knowledge. And so now he has envy about that. He's like, I must have it. I must have all the arcane knowledge. He starts measuring the pyramids, studying every inch of them so he can, you know, find all this arcane knowledge so he could learn the secret of life. Of course, Hunt Emerson is throwing in all these goofy background gags. This little baby pharaoh is going, mummy, mummy, and then his mummy comes out. Just all goofy stuff like that. So when he finally figures all this shit out, he puts it into this little computer, and it says the secret of eternal life is don't die. So once again, he's pissed off. Then it's just like most Hunt Emerson comics, it just keeps taking these weird left turns. So then he finds out that the pyramids were actually the droppings of these giant moles that lived under the ground. And they're from Uranus, apparently. I like how he makes a joke, of course. And he has this little note here. This joke is included to comply with the EEC regulations regarding any mention of the planet Uranus in humorous works. It does seem like nobody can mention Uranus without making a joke, a punny joke about it. And at least they commented on it. So he finds this like weird little door in the bottom of this pyramid. he can't read the hieroglyphics, the mole hieroglyphics. It says, do not open under any circumstances. He does. All this water rushes out. So apparently this is all the water from the Atlantic Ocean. And so he finds out that the mole people are responsible for Atlantis sinking below the ocean. He's in the submarine. And of course, in the little portholes, we see all the Beatles from the Yellow Submarine movie. He just throws in every goofy gag he can. There's a fish and chip shop at the bottom of the ocean. We see sharks buying takeout, getting takeout. Very silly. So then he ends up in the Himalayas, I think, or Mount Everest. And he meets Eric von Däniken. It's a reference to Chariot of the Gods, the popular 70s book by Eric von Däniken. So like I said, every panel, he's throwing any slight chance of humor against the wall and see what sticks. Some of it's really funny. Some of them are just like, oh man, kind of groaners. And so he's like, oh, I'm going to bring all this arcane knowledge to the world. I'll tell them all about the mole people. And the world will say, and we see the world saying, bollocks. And he knows that's what will happen. Nobody will believe him anyway. So then he goes to this mystic at the top of a mountain. You know, like one of those type of guys. And he asks him, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Once again, he's not satisfied by the answer. And now he wants to know the real name of God. He hires like 10,000 monks to toil away at 10,000 computers, combining letters and words until he gets the true name of God. And that doesn't satisfy him either. God, look at that great background there. The Harryman-esque kookiness. So now the mosquito says, maybe like sex could be a thing that would give your life meaning. He says, when I had those Porsches back 8 pages ago, I tried all that shit. But then he sees a family, a very not rich, just very happy. And of course he's like, I want it. He wants that. And the mosquito says, well, you're going to have sex first if you want a family. And so we see this hot lady, naked lady. And he chases her off a cliff, and they both fall off this cliff. But they're cartoon characters, right? So they spring back to life. And then because they're cartoon characters, though, they realize, wait, but we're two-dimensional. We can't have sex. And I love when Hunt Emerson always does this in his comics. He plays around with the fact that comic characters know they're comic characters. So when he turns around to face us, his penis is just a triangle with a circle in it because it's two-dimensional. And he says, but what if I turn sideways? And it's censored. And she says, yeah, but when I turn sideways, look, I'm too flat. We can't have sex. Well, if you guys notice, the backgrounds are constantly changing. These crazy, cool backgrounds. So then he gets creative. He rolls her up. He swats the mosquito. He's tired of taking the mosquito's advice. And then he points to Hunt Emerson. And he says, you're supposed to be the artsy-fartsy genius. Draw me in 3 dimensions instantly. And put some clothes on me. I'm getting chilly. And then look at these great panels. Just showing how playful and inventive Hunt Emerson is. He does a modern art thing. Trying to draw 3-dimensionally. And he's like, no bloody good. So he says, fine, I'll do it myself. I made this machine that will pull my image across the comic frame in nanoseconds. It'll make me 3-dimensional or so close that it won't matter. And of course, it just rips him to shreds. And the moral is, be not envious, for no one has anything. And then we see Hunt Emerson and Tim, forgot his name already, whatever. And they're in this void. And they're like, we might as well end it all. And they jump off this unseen precipice. And that's the silly, goofy ending. Now we have Sloth by Neil Gaiman, writer, and Brian Talbot, drawer. And God, look at how beautiful this art is by Talbot. And we see it's January 1st, 2000. We see these three monks on a pilgrimage, and they've arrived at this cathedral. It says, "Quiet, please do not disturb," but they knock on the door anyway. So it's so weird how Brian Talbot in this, like, he looks like John Severin. It's so, like, just amazing detail. But that'll change soon, as you shall soon see. So they finally let these guys in, and the place is a pigsty. I guess this is like the cathedral of the lazy. These three traveling monks say, "We have traveled here for the new millennium, and we came to hear your word, O prophet." He says, "I'm not the prophet, I'm a mere acolyte. The prophet is way too holy to be up before lunch. All the stained glass is, to work as human, to relax as divine." So they go to wake up the prophet. And as you guys maybe have noticed, look at this. We see little imperfections on the comics page. Tidy up. Like he didn't erase some of his zipper tones and sketchings. So the prophet doesn't like being woken up. He's very lazy. And he tells these three acolytes, or these three monks, he tells them how he had once had a vision and three great mysteries were revealed to him. Ah, man, that's nice. And he tells us the real story of the first week of creation, how God just kind of dicked around for 7 days because he's lazy. And finally, on the seventh day, the last night, he just did a rush job. And that's why the universe is so not that great. And if you notice, there's more of this signs of not getting the job done. I like this. And God looked upon the universe and saw that it was all right, considering it was a bit of a rush job. And like, have you guys noticed? Look, the art's getting sketchier. It's almost like some things aren't drawn. In the backgrounds, there's a note that says window. And even the main characters are just being sketched out. There's more crap in the margins. And it's getting worse and worse. In fact, I think is that a photo of Charlton Heston that they just kind of inked over? So apparently when Moses went up the mountain, God really just told him, there's only 2 commandments. Keep the noise down. And do what thou willst. As long as you don't bother me anymore. So go away and stop bothering me and do whatever you want. Of course, Moses changed it. He edited it. He thought they needed a little tightening up. So at this point, the art is pure, just breakdowns. We even see a bit of Neil Gaiman's script. And now we actually have a photo of Brian Talbot's drawing board. We see his pens. We see a razor blade. And now it's just the roughest of layouts. And the third revelation is that every 1,000 years, God has to wind up the universe like a clock. And, it's the last millennium is finishing. So they hear this big, like, wow. And they say, what was that? And the prophet says, sounded like to me something huge running down. Oh, well, I don't suppose it's the end of the world. And apparently it is. We see a little note here to the editors of Knockabout. And it's Brian Talbot saying, don't worry about it. We'll get this in time. I know we're running a little late. But we'll have it ready by the time the printers need it. P.S. When do we get paid? Now we have Gluttony by Dave Gibbons writing and Lou Stringer drawing. I don't know much about Lou Stringer, but I like his goofy style. Like, it's just perfect for humor. It's not necessarily good. I don't think he's a good artist, but I've said this before. A lot of times comics are funnier. Funny comics are funnier when the art's not so great. This comic wouldn't be nearly as good if it was beautifully belabored art by Brian Bolland or something. And this one's called The Glut. And it takes place in America during the Prohibition. There's this fat gangster. I think his name is Mr. Glutton. And, he's just filthy rich, and he runs everything. He walks around the city like he owns the city, which he kind of does. They just bully everyone. He bullies everyone he meets. So these two women who are kind of temperance society women, they decide they got to do something about it. They got to stop this guy. So they go to the sheriff. And of course, the sheriff really doesn't want to rock the boat. He knows that this guy's too big a fish for him to fry. But he agrees to go out. Well, he actually was invited to go to Glutton's palace. But he says, yeah, I'll have a talk with them ladies. I'll see if I can get him to change his mind and, do better. So it's just this insanely crazy mansion with all this artwork. The artwork's pretty funny, though. These really goofy, it's almost like Milt Gross artwork. And there's a big banquet waiting for him. Glutton comes in, and of course he's eating pounds and pounds of food. And the sheriff looks like he's kind of done. He's like, oh, that was really good. And he's like, oh, you ain't done yet. And Mr. Glutton would be very angry if his hospitality was abused. You have to eat everything. This is what it's like in Italy. When your relatives do this to you, you're stuffed, and they're like, oh, come on, you got to eat this. So look at him. He's just getting sicker and sicker. He's vomiting. He just looks like he feels terrible. Then he snaps his fingers, and there's this whole bordello of wanton women that I guess now he's going to attempt to have fun with them. And then when he wakes up, one of Glutton's goons has a camera. They took pictures of him with these naked ladies. So he basically says, I own you now. You're all mine. So the sheriff is nursing his hangover the next day. And those two women come in and say, well? And he's like, there's nothing we can do. If it's any consolation, all that eating and drinking will kill him pretty soon. And so these women decide to take things into their own hands. And they make this sarsaparilla, and they make barrels of it, and they put tons of rat poison in it. They give it to Glutton as a gift. They say, oh, it doesn't cost anything. We're hoping that maybe you won't drink liquor anymore if you have this delicious sarsaparilla. And they kill him. Then they kind of flash forward a little. Prohibition got repealed, of course. And life moved on. Now we're back at the funeral of Glutton. And it looks like these two nice little old ladies got away with murder. No one's the wiser. Next, we have Greed by Mark Rogers and Steve Gibson. I'm not familiar with Mark Rogers, the writer, but Steve Gibson, I've seen in lots of English stuff. Very kind of underground style, as you can see. Kind of reminds me of Melinda Gebbie with how, like, inconsistent it is. Where, like, some panels will be, like, just this goofy little scrawl, and then some will be this amazing drawing of a human face. Overall, I like Melinda Gebbie a lot, but she does have that thing where panel to panel, you never know what you're going to get. And this guy kind of reminds me of it. I like also how ugly he draws people. It definitely reminds me of an underground comic cartoonist. So this one's Greed. We see this kid, he's 49, Barrington Blimp, and his mother is filthy rich. and she controls all the finances. So he's always lusting after, stupid products and consumer goods. But his mom gives him an allowance. So he finally realizes, I gotta kill her. I'm tired of living under her boot. Here's, we see his revelation here. Look at that. Just crazy art. And so he goes to this mad scientist's house who gives him a laser ray, some kind of blaster. And Barrington aims it at the guy and he kills him so he won't have to pay for it. This completely obliterates him. And then he comes up with this really cockamamie scheme where he figures he'll dress up like a crazy Martian or something. And then if anyone sees him zap his mother, they'll just think, it's an alien. Which seems like that would cause a lot of problems too, though. It's funny how everyone recognizes him in his outfit. The butler's just like, good night, Master Barrington. Because he thinks it's the perfect disguise. So he goes to his mother's room. She's asleep. And the laser gun doesn't work. It fritzes out. The mother's waking up. He's like, oh no. And so he loses his shit and he just starts strangling her. He just wants her dead. But now he knows he won't have this perfect alibi. So now he also has to get rid of the body. So he writes this crudely written suicide note. I'm sorry, not a suicide note. Supposedly the mother runs away with some guy. And he writes this note. He can't even spell right. And then he puts her in this trunk. And he's going to dispose of it. Of course, everyone, all of the staff recognize him. Little Tex Avery shout out there. So he puts the trunk in the trunk of his car. So goofy. He says, oh, I almost forgot about my disguise. I better eat it just to make sure. So he eats the Martian disguise. And then he's driving around town like a maniac because he's never driven before. He's always been chauffeured. And the trunk falls out of the car. And the cops are chasing after him. He panics, drives right through this billboard and off of this cliff. Kills a bunch of mountain goats, it looks like, on the way down. And he's alive after the car stops, but he has a heart attack. I love this way of representing a heart attack. Like a broken mirror. I love all this art. It's just it's so weird how ugly it is. It's gruesome, ugly art, but I really like it. So he's dead at the end. I guess that's the moral. No good can come of it. I like this one, Anger, by Davy Francis writer and Jeremy Banks artist. Once again, this guy's got a very simple style, but I think it works better for a comedy. I'd rather see this guy draw this story than some really awesome, realistic artist. So this is Wrath, and we see this guy with this crazy, angry face. As far as I can remember, I've always been an angry person. And we just see him throughout his life, and he's just incredibly angry. He doesn't have a very good life, though, because people don't like him back either, because he's such an angry turd. And people pick on him. He becomes a scientist. He's pretty brilliant, and he makes this thing that can dissolve through anything. So, of course, it dissolves the jar it's in and goes straight through the earth and makes a large hole in Australia. So from there, he's kicked out of the world of science. He becomes an accountant. And he just hates every minute of it. He hates his co-workers. He hates the commute. He hates the fact that his neighbors have these fun parties and they never invite him. I love this panel. Everyone's happy except for him. He's lying in bed, grimacing with a heart on. The neighbors make topiary that looks like a middle finger. He's like, I think my neighbors hated me as much as I hated them. Even the postman sent me hate mail. He got a pet for companionship, but the first time it pooped on his chair, he drop kicks it 200 yards. He decides to go on a vacation. Figures that'll calm his nerves, but he found it infuriating. All these drunken, tourists puking all over. Shopping drives him mad. Going to the bank. Every minute of his day he's full of anger and hatred. He retires from being an accountant, and he decides to try to enjoy his retirement. He gets in fights with the other old guys playing bocce. I like this, pottering about in the garden, and it's like these vines are attacking him and he's wrestling them. Nothing goes good for this guy. Going for a little drive in the country, of course, he gets a flat. It's raining. So he returns to his first love, science. And we see him fusing this cat and dog together while the neighbors saying, "Prince, Spunky," calling out for them. So finally, he decides to create this ultimate revenge machine, the cosmic vaporizer. It'll get rid of all of his ex-colleagues, ex-schoolmates, ex-bosses, everyone. And then I won't be angry anymore. He won't be angry anymore. There, in 10 seconds, it'll all be over. And he presses the button. And we see this thing, almost like a heart monitor, and a blinding white flash, and then... toot. So I assume it worked. But I would definitely like to read more of these guys. Really funny strip. Almost every panel was funny. I didn't point them all out to you, of course. So now we have Lust, written by Alan Moore and drawn by Mike Matthews. We've seen Mike Matthews a few times in these Knockabout comics. This guy's amazing. He's totally captures the spirit of the underground comics, but maybe even like the forebears, EC comics. He's got a lot of Graham Ingalls in him. Yeah, his stuff is just, even when he's not drawing something obscene, the way he draws things are obscene. It's weird. It's just it's lascivious art. So this is Alan Moore being Mr. Clever Man. And so it says A Pornography, written by Alan Moore, Lust. And so I'll give you a taste of it, just see if you'll get the shtick. We see a map. Here's Alaska, USA, and Russia, getting very close to each other, obviously. Living just across the way, we'd been watching each other for some time. She had nice contours, going in and out in all the right places. And she was built big, the way I like them. Seems she had quite a reputation. By all accounts, she'd screwed half of Europe and left him completely in her thrall. And we see the Soviets, conquering Eastern Europe. Not that I was worried. I'd screwed the other half, and I had quite a reputation myself. I've got a big weapon that's talked about from Bikini right up to Berkshire. I looked upon her as a challenge. And so Mike Matthews is definitely making things look as lustful as possible. I don't even know what this thing is, military instrument is, but it looks like a tongue. Maybe there is something that looks like that, or he just made it up, I don't know. And of course, it's like, I suppose it was inevitable we'd run into each other sooner or later. And we see Afghanistan, us selling arms to the Mujahideen, and of course, Russia knowing that we were behind it. I was as discreet as possible, but when she felt the insistent pressure against her flanks, she knew at once who was behind it. We exchanged a few heated, passionate words, and we see the UN, we see the ambassadors yelling at each other, the American and Soviet ambassadors. And so we decided to continue action back at her place. So we see America running in, obviously declaring war on Russia. Of course, they're all ready to fight back. Look at this guy's mouth here. So things are heightening up. It looks like we kick out the Russian ambassador. And look at this guy. The instrument I use in such situations was big and hard and ready to engage. Its head was purple and engorged with blood. Sometimes it's a little over the top. So now they get the neighbors to join in. You know, just like we have NATO, and they've got the Warsaw Pact. So basically all the countries are teaming up, picking sides. So it looks like World War III is about to happen. We see Margaret Thatcher bent over this table. George Bush leering at her. And it looks like all the neighbors, you know, the NATO and Warsaw Pact, they fell away, utterly drained, till only she and I were left. So this is like World War III is just like the climax. So it looks like America's, like literally, we're in Russia now. This is a full-on war. Our activities were lubricated with the slickness of both of our juices. And we see these guys hand-to-hand, savage, bloody, disgusting combat. Like Mike Matthews is so perfect for this story. Just every page in here is just amazing. The amount of work he puts in every panel is just devastating. It's incredible. Now we're down to the showdown, the last thing. Two buttons stood up stiff and erect. And I have a feeling that Mike Matthews was allowed to add these little like chicken fat word balloons, you know, the little, because they're just like kind of silly things. George Bush is telling Dan Quayle that he can't hit the big button with his dick. Dan Quayle wants to wallop it with his dick. He's like, you can't do that. This is the president's finger job. So they launch the missiles. Finally, I could contain myself no longer. I shot my full load into her, just as she bestowed her generous bounty upon me. The earth moved. We see the big... And then this last page, we just see a devastated earth. And it says, afterwards, for a very long time, we just lay there silently, side by side, smoking. Oh, that Alan Moore, such a clever lad. This is such a good story. I hope this is reprinted somewhere. I know there's a book that has Alan Moore's, you know, shit that he owns the copyright to. Random things he did for anthologies over the years. I hope this is in that, because this is really hard to find, this Knockabout, the 7 Deadly Sins. This is way out of print, and but as you could see, I mean, this is one of my favorite anthologies in my collection. This is some killer stuff, really good stuff. It's very similar to Outrageous Tales of the Old Testament, which is another great anthology you guys should keep an eye out for. Similarly, way out of print. That is an amazing book that I can show you, because I think mainly because of Mike Matthews. Mike Matthews, there's a comic in there that is so underground. It is so gnarly and just sexual, and YouTube would not like it. But this one's not so bad in that respect. But yeah, highly recommend that book as well. But since we're looking at this one, I guess that's what I'm recommending today. 7 Deadly Sins, Knockabout Press, 1989. And great book. And I hope you guys can find it. I hope it's not too expensive. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.